Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to another episode here of Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. Our guest had so much fun with us 2 weeks ago. He's decided to come back, join our show. It's the producer over at Pride Detroit. It's Jeremy Reisman. Welcome back, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Good to see you again on such short notice here.
I know. It's pretty awesome for us. And
short turnaround.
Yeah. Awesome for you, too. Hey, so if anyone missed it, Jacob and I were on the POD cast on May 27th. It was awesome. Got to finally talk with Ryan. And, Jeremy was obviously a gracious host. So we loved being over there. Jacob and I kind of thought, Jeremy, that we were like getting called up from the podcast practice squad. So in the NFL, you're guaranteed 3 game checks. So our question is, where are game checks?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I'll pay you the same thing we pay our mods on both Twitch and YouTube. So in fact, I'll even double it for you guys.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. This is good. That's good. That's about as well as I thought it was going to go, but that's all right, man. All right. So
that's how much Jason pays me anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're lucky you get paid. I'm paying the bills over here, so you're lucky that you're scot free.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we got a good show planned for you guys. I hope you stick around at the end because I'm going to ask Jeremy about his most rewarding moment as a podcaster. Give him some time to think about that. But when Jacob and I were thinking about the concept of this show, there's really only one guest, and we wanted Jeremy because some say he has an unhealthy obsession with the NFL rulebook. So we thought we got to have Jeremy for this one. Luckily, he was free and everything just lined up because, as Jeremy knows, that sometimes just getting schedules lined up is not an easy thing in the podcast realm. But luckily, Jeremy was able to hook us up with some time here, especially after our recording his POD cast earlier today. So we have 3 segments for you guys planned. First, we're going to discuss the new rules, some of the new rules for the 2025 NFL season. Second segment, we're going to look at how to fix the NFL, right? We're going to propose some rule changes, stuff that we don't like. And finally, our last segment, which is going to be a short segment, we're going to look outside the box, offer some rule changes that you may see in the UFL or XFL. These rules might have some truth to them, but they're, tongue in cheek. Let's just say that. So let's just dive right in here. First, we're going to start off with Jeremy's favorite topic, and that's special teams. Actually, last year you liked the kickoff rule. You liked the nature, the unknown nature of it, from what I remember. Correct?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we see so few times in the NFL a drastic change to a play like that. I like when they go bold, especially with the play that was essentially broken.
Yeah. So, or just have broken or just, it was like, it was an inconsequential play. It was an extra commercial break. And, and that's, as Ben Johnson might say, that's a boring play, right?
That's right.
We want explosive plays. All right. So touchbacks now, they used to come out to the 20, then they went to the 25, last year to the 30, now to the 35-yard line. First of all, we'll start with you, Jacob. Are you a fan of it coming out to the 35?
I'm a fan of them actually making them return kicks. So I think if they're gonna, say comes out to the 35-yard line, it's gonna make teams actually kick the ball and kick it where they're forced to return it. No more just booting it out of the back of the end zone. Which even last year seemed to be a thing, right? So I'm all for it.
What about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, 100%. This was actually the original rule proposal last year, and then at the last minute before they accepted it, they changed it to 30, I guess, to get a little bit more support. Because I guess it was like a baby steps type of thing where it's like we weren't ready to go full in for the new rule, so let's just make it to 30 so that things don't get changed too drastically. And then lo and behold, no one decided to return the ball at all last year. Yeah. The touchback percentage was whatever it was. It was an improvement, but it wasn't anywhere near where they were hoping. So this will do it. I mean, we heard Lions special teams coordinator Dave Phipp talk about it and how, the average return yard was the 29-yard line last year. And so, getting a touchback to the 30 was worth it to everybody because you were risking losing a big play on the return. And then, even if you were kicking it to return, the positiveness for the kicking team was maybe 1 yard of field position, I should say, per kickoff. So clearly wasn't worth it, but an extra 5 or 6 yards of field position changes things drastically. And it certainly sounds like the Lions are going to play the play a little bit more aggressively. And I would expect that to follow with most teams.
Yeah, I'm curious, like even if they would have kept it at 30, how it would have changed from last year to this year. Teams being able to practice a little bit different. The kickers getting used to the more of the squib kick. Because we saw that the Lions utilize that towards the end of the year a little bit, where if you land in the landing zone and then get the touchback, it starts at the 20. So if you can, and it's just hard. I don't think they could really predict it well, and that's why you didn't have that. Because then you risk it if you kick it out of bounds, you're risking it at the 40.
Right.
So you move from 30 to 40. I don't know if that part of it has changed. If you kick it out of bounds, is it still the 40, Jeremy? I assume it is. I don't know.
Believe so.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
still the
think that's
40.
changed. Yeah.
So there, and you're only really, if you kick it out of bounds, you might only be sacrificing 5. So maybe they're, they might be more willing to the squib kick it. I remember Dave Phipp also saying that, with Bates, they didn't, they had to worry about his leg, right? Because he went from the Michigan Panthers to training camp to the NFL season, and they were having him try field goals. And I know that Jacob and I, and you were there too, Jeremy, because you're at all those sessions, but he was practicing the kickoffs, but they were trying different things, but it's not like they could really get in any sort of rhythm. So maybe during this offseason that they'll feel more comfortable with Bates kicking field goals, that they'll use his leg more to try the squib or high kicks. I'm really curious how this is going to line up this year. Do you expect anything, Jeremy, other than like more kicks return because of it coming out to 35, like the squibs or anything else, trick plays?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think just with more returns means you can get more creative, right? You can do more reverses or fakes or whatever. I think we're just going to see a lot more creativity in general, just because there's going to be more opportunities. That there might be teams that still, they don't trust their return team. Certain teams are bad at it, right? Like not everyone can be good at a play. So there might be teams that are just like, you know what? It's the 35-yard line, but we know it's going to be only the 35-yard line. So let's just kick it through the end zone. I don't suspect that's going to be many teams because that's pretty big field position to give up. But I just think with more opportunities, we're going to see more teams try some things. You have to have 2 guys back, I believe, for the return. You have to, I think you might see some creative ways with the way they line up those 2 guys. You might see some creative ways with the kick, like you said. I think we were just kind of robbed of that last year, and I'm kind of excited to see what everyone has in their bag of tricks. Because if you remember last year too, like Phipp was like, "Oh, we've been thinking about this for months. We got so many ideas," and then, like you said, I think they just lost a little trust in Jake Bates as a kicker, and that took their big opportunity to make a creative play, getting a little bit of an advantage, like we saw with a couple teams last year. A couple teams were able to, really be good in their coverage, and it was a big advantage. But the Lions weren't one of those teams, and I think this should be the kick in the pants, along with, like you said, Jake Bates's development for the Lions to get a little creative this year.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to mention on that, Jacob?
Yeah, so they also, I believe this just went through. So in like that setup zone, last year you had to have 7 players right on the 35 with a foot on the 35-yard line, and now it's 6. So now you're allowed to have players in between the 30 and 35. So, I mean, it's only a 5-yard difference, but you potentially could have 3 people on the 30, 6 on the 35, and then you have, the 2 returners back there. Does that mean, like Jeremy said, does that mean more returns? Does that mean getting, fancier like that? Time will tell. But, I mean, it's kind of an interesting rule change that they went that way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they want this to be a play. They want people to pay attention. I mean, the whole reason of changing it last year was to make, to have more returns. Had slightly the effect I hopefully this year. I mean, Phipps seemed to think it was going to have the desired effect. It sounded pretty clear, and he was pretty emphatic about it during his press conference.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next thing. Let's talk about overtime. So they've changed it this year. Now it more resembles playoff overtime where both teams get a possession. The only time you would not get a possession is someone kept it for the whole 10 minutes. But regardless if someone scores a touchdown or not, both teams are going to get a possession. But the OT remains at 10 minutes, whereas playoffs it's 15 minutes. This moved the needle at all for you, Jacob? Are you happy that this finally happened?
I am happy. You have the Chiefs Bills game comes to mind. There's just certain times where it's like, they don't get a fair shot. This gets closer to that. I still am a fan of college where you get, one possession, start them, even if you're going to start them at like the 40-yard line, the opponent's 40 or something like that. Give the team each, the ball once from there and then let them have a drive. So this gets closer to that because, no matter what, both teams get a possession. I think, that's a fair way of doing it. You also may have, if the first team takes, 6-7 minute drive, then you got the next team that only has 3 minutes left to go. Then maybe they score and they go for 2. They don't want to tie. They want to go for 2, So you have some interesting things that could still come up towards the end. So I like it.
What about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think it's an improvement. Like Jacob, I actually like the college method a lot. The problem with the NFL is the idea of overtime, particularly in the regular season, isn't just to determine a winner. It's to end the game as quick as possible because there's commercials that matter. If it's a 1:00 game, broadcasters don't want that bleeding into the next game. And so I don't think we'll ever get a college overtime things, particularly in the regular season, because they don't want games to go on an extra 30 minutes, an extra 45 minutes. The players don't want that either, right? It probably increases their chance to get injured and things like that. So I think this is a nice middle ground where, like you said, both teams are getting a possession there. It's a little bit more fair, but we don't have a game going on an extra hour, an extra 2 hours. We don't have players playing, 75, 80 minutes of football, which is unsustainable for if it ever has to happen, a couple times a season now. Am I super excited about this change? Not really. I mean, the Lions will probably play 1 or 2 overtime games in the next 2 or 3 seasons, so it's not going to matter too much. But I do think it's a nice little nudge in the right direction, which is what the NFL is usually doing. They're not making full scale changes; they're making little nudges here and there, and so I dig it.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm glad that touchdown won't end it, and it goes down on a coin toss or whatever it is. I do like that. I think it gives the Lions an advantage if they get it and they get the possession first because they're a team that could grind down the field. I mean, Frank Bragg notwithstanding, let's gloss over that right now. But normally we would be a team that would be able to grind out a 7 or 8 minute drive, and that gives you a huge advantage if the other team only has 2 minutes. I mean, they could rush it down or whatever. But I'd rather compress their clock as much as we could. So I think it can give the Lions an advantage. But I'm glad that it went this way. But it, like both of you guys said, it doesn't really move the needle hugely for me. This one is kind of interesting. The Hawkeye system is going to be in use this year. Sony's Hawkeye. It's the camera system. It's going to replace the chain gang. As a kid, I remember this being trotted out 8 times a game. It seemed like, and just slowed the game way down. They're doing it now. They're going to have 6 8K cameras. They're going to be able to measure the ball, where the play stops, be able to measure it, and it's going to show it on the screen inside the stadium, like a general line, and you're going to be able to see it. And then, and same for the home crowd too. It's supposed to cause less delays on the field. It's going to be 40 seconds faster. Jacob, you said you saw this in the UFL, right? Didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. What did you think about that?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's quick. It's kind of I know you haven't seen it, but when they challenge balls and strikes, So like in minor league or whatever, you
Oh,
check
yeah,
your
I've
head,
seen
they
that.
look at
Yeah.
it. It
Yeah.
takes 10 seconds or whatever. It pops up on the screen. You see right there what it is. The UFL uses the same thing. It's like 6 cameras. I don't think they even have a chain gang. I think the NFL's got the chain gang as like backup just in case. But yeah, UFL, if it's a close play like that, it pops up on the screen. You see the ball, you see the line up to like, I know there's one that was like a 1/4 inch or something away from the line. So it's cool. It looks like it's really accurate and it's just quicker. Something to keep the game moving too. So yeah, I definitely was happy to see that. We talked about that, I think, last year.
Yeah.
So you can
Well,
add this to the list of UFL things the NFL is taking because the kickoff thing happened, and now here we go with it's a different system, but it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah. You got any thoughts on it, Jeremy?
I do, and my major one is that I think, and I'm not accusing either of you of this, but I think a lot of people don't understand what this is. I think a lot of people look at this and be like, oh, cameras and Hawkeye on the top, like, oh, they're going to use this to mark where the play ends. That's not what this is. The officials are still the ones that are placing the ball based on their own eyes. This is only saying, is that placement of the ball a first down or not? That's the only thing this is. It's replacing the chain gangs. And I don't like, how many times do the chain gang come out there in a game?
Right.
Today it
Not
feels
much
like
anymore.
once every 3 weeks. Like they don't do it much anymore. And so, I mean, they rolled out like a full press release for this whole thing. I don't think this matters at all. I don't think this is going to change the game at all. Like, I think they almost wanted people to believe that they were going to start using lasers and cameras to measure where the ball is when a player goes down. That's not what this is. They are just measuring from where the ball is placed, if that's a first down or not. I don't think that's. I mean, listen, there obviously needed to be an upgrade from the chain gang. I'm not arguing that, but this isn't the revolutionary change that I think some people build it as. It was a needed change, but it doesn't really move the needle or get me excited for anything.
Yeah, Jeremy's point needs to be reiterated. They spot the ball, so the refs will call a play dead or whatever, and then they spot the ball, and then this is just computer. They just generate that first down line from where the ball is placed. So you could still challenge the spot of the ball, or it could be up to review assist. But I think what Jacob has said, I think it's going to create like some fun or buzz in the stadium. Because I don't know if Jeremy, if you've ever been to a minor league game where they challenge balls and strikes. I don't know if I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but it's awesome because they'll tap their head and they'll step back, and then on the scoreboard they show that view that you get to see like at TV where the box is, and then it'll light up, and if it touches any sort of that box, it's a strike. If it's outside, it's a ball, and the crowd goes crazy. And I think you'll probably get the same effect in the stadium. So it'll probably increase that presentation a little bit, which,
that's fair,
which is good. So I get it from that standpoint, but I think you're right. The NFL wants you to believe that somehow this is going to be more accurate than previous, and it's not. It's going to be, it's up to the refs where to put it.
I want to see the frequency of use. I just want to see, like, are they going to force people to throw the challenge flag and challenge these spots, or are they going to, anytime it's close, or, is it just going to be an automatic thing where anytime it's close, let's just look at it real quick? Or, are they going to make people talk about it more? That's what I want to see, is how much it's actually going to be used.
Yeah. And to Jason's point, the way you described it makes me think of tennis too. Like when they have kind of the virtual image of like the ball bouncing, and the crowd's all watching the virtual image as the ball approaches the line and like hits down and then zooms in on whether it's on the line or not. And so that is an exciting moment for tennis that builds a little extra crowd involvement. So maybe that is the positive, even if it's not, game altering necessarily.
Yeah, no. It'll be nice to see it in action, when we get to the stadium. I'm curious what the stadium presentation will be like. But we got a few weeks to see that. I'm sure
this and the overtime thing both are Bills related, right? Because the Bills also had that play where they said Josh Allen made it, and there was that controversy whether he was there or not.
True.
All right. we're gonna move back to special teams. Onside kicks. All right, they moved up the line. Now they can line at the kicker's still at the 35, but the players can line up at the 34-yard line. The other rule change is that you could do it pretty much anytime you're down. You can say you're going to go for it. Which Jacob and I were talking at work. Like, why even have that distinction with the low percentage, like 6% rate, which we're going to talk about in here in a second? Why you could go for it when you're up if you like. Why would you do that? Like, why do they have to have this distinction of you have to be down? I just don't get that. So I don't want to come up with rules. We don't need to talk about the 34 if that's going to make a difference. What I'm more interested from you, Jeremy, is regardless of the set of rules, what would be the proper conversion rate? Like where would you want? Where's the sweet spot for you?
I think that's the right question, because that's probably the question that the NFL competition committee is asking themselves, right? Like when do we get to that sweet spot of like it's not too easy, but it's also there's conversions happening. And for me, like I actually don't want high conversion rates here. I think a team that is up 21 points with 10 minutes to go should win the game the majority of the time. We shouldn't give the losing team and more of an opportunity to get it close. I understand why the NFL would want that. I understand why maybe some fans would want that. They want the games to be more exciting, but I want the team that's been dominating most of the game to win the game. I think that's the fairest way to determine it. So I think I'm not that much higher, like maybe 10%. I certainly don't want it any higher than 15. I think 10 is probably the sweet spot for me. So I know that makes for a somewhat uninteresting onside kick for a lot of people, but it should be a difficult play to convert.
Okay, where are you at, Jacob?
That's actually exactly what I wrote down as 10 to 15%, I think is ideal. Before they had banned the running start, there was 14% in 2015, 11% in 2016, 21% in 2017.
That's
so 21% of the time in 2017. Then they banned the running start. It drops to 7, 12, 4. So it kind of goes up and down, but generally it's been pretty low. I think 10 to 15% is probably appropriate, because then it's not happening very frequently. It's still a really, really low success. Like Jeremy said, if somebody's dominating, you don't want it to be so much that it's almost like a coin flip 50-50. Like maybe they'll just get the ball the entire second half because they're just running it back. But at the same time, that is a flaw with football. That's not with some of the other, like, forgive me for making a baseball reference again, but, if you're down by 8 runs, you still have to get 3 outs in the 9th inning, to end that game. You can't kill the clock, and we can't, hold on to the ball forever. So this kind of combats that by having somewhat of a successful onside kick. But I think with the rules they have right now, it's also, teams just aren't trying it. And I don't know that they're going to try it any more frequently by moving it a yard closer. I still think the success rate last year was 6%, probably going to be hovering between 4 and 8% like it has the last few years also. How do you feel, Jason?
Mine was 12 to 15%. I don't want it to be a gimme, because then what's the point of working hard all game if you're just going to give the other team a good shot at the end? Like 20%, like you said in 2017, that's 1 out of 5. That's way too much. I don't want anywhere to sniff that. I do miss the surprise onside kick, and I think that is a thing that I don't know you can't fix it with this dynamic kick. I do miss that part of it, that you can kind of catch a team off guard. I don't know how to fix that, and that's you could have the higher percentage, like I guess early on. Like even that, I mean, you're looking at in 23 was 4%, and that's when you could still do a surprise onside kick. It was 5% before that. Some of these the percentages are really crazy because they're not trying that many kicks. So if you have like a couple extra conversions, that can wildly raise these percentages. But you're talking the last 3 seasons alone, 5, 4, and 6. I think the NFL would rather have it closer to 10 to keep people tuning in all the way to the end.
Definitely.
Are either of you guys a fan of the 4th and 15 version of this, where you have an offensive play instead of a kick?
This is also the UFL.
Yes, I know. I'm just wondering if either one of you are a fan of that.
It does feel kind of gimmicky. to do that. But I mean, I think that the UFL said that their successful conversion rate is hovering around like 14% or something like that. So, I mean, if that's what we're aiming for is 10 to 15%, then hey, you got it right there. And then it's it's an interesting play. I guess, that's probably more interesting than these onsides as they are right now.
They are. I like the outside of the box thinking like that. It's kind of how we got to the dynamic kick to begin with. And we joke about it a lot, but like I also kind of like putting the game on the offensive and defensive teams' hands rather than special teams. I do like minimizing special teams impact because these are the players that generally get you to a win or a loss, as your players on offense, your players on defense. And it seems odd that a critical play in the game, an onside kick, is left in the hands of a lot of players that don't matter the rest of the game. And so I actually do like it. I like it a lot more if they would have gotten rid of automatic first downs on defensive penalties, because that's the one thing that scares me with that play, right? Is just like you get a team like the Green Bay Packers who take these deep shots every play, hoping for pass interference, hoping for defensive holding, whatever
illegal contact.
Yeah,
something
illegal
stupid.
contact. Right. And so like if you could somehow just turn off, like I'm talking all automatic first downs, including on personal foul penalties on these kind of plays, then I would be even more inclined to make that switch.
Yeah, it would give such an advantage to like the Lions or something like that, at a really good offensive team also to come back. The Chiefs, some Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, those type of teams would have, and I don't know if I want to give them that much more an advantage. It's just so much to think about when you're going to institute a play like that. I'm with you that it's probably more of an exciting play when you have your offensive and defensive players up there rather than special teams. Just don't let Dave Phipps see this interview. Especially only one of three of us here are going to run into him, but just don't let him. I don't want to get Jeremy in trouble. He I wanted to get you on his good side. He loves Justin Rogers, man. I want him to call you out too.
Yeah, for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he knows my reputation, I got quite the hill to climb.
I know.
True.
You're out there catching kicks from Jack Fox.
True.
So
that's true.
Yeah, he'd let you do that. All right. Last thing that we're going to talk about in the new rule section is expanded replay assist. I'm glad that they're expanding some of these things. They tends to move much quicker. The game does, and I do like that. Real quickly, what they're expanding to. Defensive player, they could do intentional grounding, but only relative to like inside the pocket or if the ball lands on line of scrimmage. They can't determine if there was a receiver in the area. That is a subjective call. The NFL does not want to get into subjective calls. And that's relative also to the roughing the passer. It's not if it's a late hit or anything like that. It's based on a hit to the head or the neck area. So something that they can, objectively say that they saw. Grabbing the face mask, performing a horse collar tackle and tripping and running into or roughing the kicker. Those are the ones that they've expanded to this year, along with the existing list that they had last year. Is there anything, Jeremy, that you thought that should be added to this list?
Not really. I mean, I'm actually kind of with the league on this, that I don't want all of these subjective rules added to replay. I mean, we toyed with it for a year in pass interference, and it was kind of a disaster. I guess the one thing I would like expanded though is, and again, this involves a little bit of clarifying what the rules actually are. So, the grabbing of the face mask rule, for example, that one was kind of triggered by what happened in Minnesota a couple of years ago, right? It was Minnesota versus the Rams, and whoever it was, the Minnesota's quarterback at the time got face masked in the end zone. It was a safety.
This was just last year, right?
Was this just last year?
It was the Thursday night game. Yeah,
that's right. And an obvious call, they missed it. And so you'd think that this expanding the replay would cover that. The problem is this is only covering plays that are called on the field. if the flag was already thrown. So if there is an expansion that I would like, it would be fixing what happened on that Thursday night game, because this rule doesn't fix that. A flag was not called, therefore you cannot replay it. That's what I'd like fixed, is if there is no call, you can challenge it, be like, hey, he clearly grabbed his face mask and turned it, call 15-yard penalty here. That is not the case this year, and I don't quite understand why. I guess maybe that slows down the game a little bit more, but to me, I like the idea of like, hey, we threw a 15-yard penalty for a face mask. He actually grabbed him by the shoulder pad. It's okay. Let's pick up the flag. But why?
Aaron Rodgers flashbacks.
Sorry, didn't mean to do that. But yeah, but like, I don't understand why you can't just do the reverse of that, where, okay, we didn't throw a flag, but there is a clear face mask. Let me throw the challenge flag, and you throw the penalty flag. Why is there no comprehensiveness to this rule change?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jeremy. It doesn't fix that rule, and that's the obvious thing. I mean, I think you go back to the pass interference that, initiated the rule change that you had before, where there's 1 year that they could, pass interference they could call, but there was no flag on that play either in that Saints-Rams game. Again,
Right.
The Rams are involved, right? So it doesn't fix that, and I think at some point you have to be able to institute, like, there was a definite penalty on that. They can obviously see it in that 20 seconds or whatever it takes to review. I get where we don't want to throw a challenge flag on everything and say, there's a penalty, because then you're going to start getting into holding and stuff like that. And there's holding on every play. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know where you draw that distinction, but it seems to me like everybody and their brother can see that there was a face mask, and that should have been called. I mean, it was obvious.
You should do it like how college does the intentional grounding, or not intentional grounding, defenseless player targeting. That's what I'm trying to say. Where targeting, you can see it happen. Everybody sees it happen. Sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. Well, just because they didn't throw a flag doesn't mean it's not targeting. They can still, from upstairs or whatever, stop the game, and then they review it, and then they can, retroactively after the fact throw a flag and call targeting and eject the player out of the game and everything. It should be similar to that, especially when it comes to, like Jeremy said, the face mask, the roughing the passer thing. I mean, sometimes it happens. It should be clear if you take an extra second to look at it. Maybe you missed it live, but to be able to not go back and look at it, yeah, it just isn't right.
I just think the tough thing is, like Jeremy said, you got to have the flag on there. So you don't want these refs to be flag happy and be like, well, I'm going to throw a flag here, and then, if I'm wrong, they'll pull it back. Because then it's like, okay, if there's not clear and convincing evidence, then they have to go with the ruling on the field. Same thing with like a fumble, like
Exactly.
they have that kind of stuff where they're more apt to just let the fumble play out. And, in actuality, it probably wasn't a fumble, but they called it that because the way the rule is, they got to do this. And I don't want to see where there's just more flags on the field. I don't want to slow it down that much. But if they could pick them up retroactively, I guess maybe they'll offset some of the time. But I don't want these refs to be flag happy. That's for sure. The only other penalty that I want to see maybe added to this is like when there is like some sort of unsportsmanlike conduct and it's, people are fighting, they never get the first guy. They only get the second guy, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
it's like last year it helped us in that Dan Skipper thing where Dan Skipper was messing with, was it Walker? And then, Walker just pushes him down to the ground. And so, Skipper was kind of flopping. So it's kind of like the flopping penalty.
Kind of.
Yeah. Well,
Skipper's
I guess,
huge. There's no way.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. I'm just trying to protect my guy,
Yeah, right.
But
that guy's strong. I don't know. Maybe, I guess
if he's that strong, that's crazy. But I would like to see some sort of penalty, go back and be like, okay, well, the guy punched him in the face mask, and that's why he's, then they could do offsetting penalties. I don't know. I just seem the evenness of it, but it's all right when it benefits your team, but when it goes against your guys and your guys is the one to respond, it really sucks.
True.
All right. That kind of ends it for that section, unless you guys got something else that you'd want to see expanded with a replay assist. Something I missed or anything? Nope.
Not
all
for me.
right.
Nope.
All right. We're going to hit Jeremy's favorite section right now. So we're going to realistic rule changes. I'm starting off with the one he's already mentioned. How would you fix automatic first down penalties? I know that you'd say get rid of it. Okay.
Yep.
So what what is your alternative? So I want to hear it. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, argue with you, even though I agree with you, and then that way we can kind of come to a resolution on that.
Yeah, for me, it's just pretty much any defensive penalty. The radical version of me includes personal fouls here, but I'm willing to allow personal fouls to come with an automatic first down, even though I think you could argue you don't need to because it's a 15-yard penalty. And if it's 3rd and 30, well, I don't know. Should you really get a first down on a 15-yard penalty? Maybe not. But in general, I just think you just get rid of it. There's only 2 or 3 fouls on offense that require a loss of down. Everything else is just yardage. It's just yardage. And I don't really understand why defense has to be different. Seems to me the only logical reason for that is they want more scoring. I would like a rule or two to go in the defense's favor because I'm one of those sickos that does enjoy defensive football.
I'm with you on that. So what's my argument is, then I'm going to just take a penalty, and because that's to my advantage because it doesn't give the automatic first down. It's 3rd and 15. I'm going to just take the penalty. So what's your argument against that, Jeremy?
Yeah, my argument is that's why every single penalty happens. Is that player is preventing a bigger play from happening, right? Mm-hmm. A guy on the offensive line holds because they don't want their quarterback to get sacked and potentially fumble the ball. A tripping penalty happens for the same reasons. Pass interference happens because you don't want to give up a big play. I don't understand why suddenly tackling a receiver instead of giving up a big play is suddenly oh, we can't allow that to happen in the game when the equivalent of that happens at every position all the time. A guy jumps offsides because he wants to, sack the quarterback, and there's a penalty for that. Every time someone commits a foul, they're not doing it accidentally, or most of them are not doing it accidentally. Like a face mask, things like that. Those are done for safety. Those are there for safety reasons and are obviously done accidentally. But a lot of times they're committed because, if I don't tackle him, the only way I can grab him because I'm out of position, he's going to run for another 50 yards, right? And so to me, every single penalty that is committed is done to prevent a bigger play. And so, yeah, if that's okay. That it's okay to have that in the game as long as it isn't happening a million times every single play, but holding happens a ton. So sure, a little more, like a slight increase in illegal contact or pass interference, I don't care.
I'm just looking at the comment that just came through on there. Sorry, distracted me. All right, Jacob, what about you? Where do you stand on this? Because I don't know if I've had this discussion with you or not.
Oh no, I'm 100% on Jeremy's side. I just don't understand. I mean, I lean more on the defense, so I like defensive football. I like good football. I don't understand. Even I'll just single out holding. Offensive holding, you lose 10 yards, you get to try the same down again. Defensive holding is a 5-yard penalty, but it's an automatic first down for the offense. Why? What's the reason for that? And then these calls usually happen when they're 3rd and deep, or they feel like they happen more frequently when it's 3rd and long, because that's when, like Jeremy said, that's when defenders have to get more handsy, or they really need to not give up this play. If they're beat, they're holding. That's the illegal contact that happens. And also the pass interference thing. Why should you be able, when you're 3rd and 25, if you're the Packers, why should you be able to chuck it 30 yards down the field and hope that you get a pass interference call, and then you get those yards all the way down from where the foul happened? It should, if it's going to be a pass interference, that one can be 15 yards. That one, if it's the yardage, that would be an automatic first down. I just don't understand the yard penalties. I mean, it just feels, why is defensive holding 5 yards automatic first down? What does that mean then? I don't understand the rule layout for that.
I don't like the optics of it, especially in the betting nature of the NFL right now. The optics. That's why I agree with you guys. I don't like that. It gives the team, like the Chiefs, an extra drive. When you give Patrick Mahomes an extra chance, that's just a death knell for a defense. And I don't like the optics of it, especially when it's 3rd and 15. What really annoys me is when the penalty's way away from the play, like the quarterback's scrambling to the far side of the field and the penalties all the way on the other side where there's no way the quarterback could have even made a play on that. So
That was the Super Bowl, right?
yeah, it's so annoying. And that I just, if I was a ref, I wouldn't even throw the flag on that spot. And that's what makes it look bad from in an NFL standpoint, a fair standpoint of like, we're not trying to fix game standpoint. I don't want to insinuate that that's happening, but the optics are that way when the play's like far away. I don't like that. Let me ask you, Jeremy, do you have a fix other than you just get the 5 yards? Would you have a compromise for someone that says, no, you can't just have 5 yards and do over? Do you have a compromise in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think the compromise there is for illegal contact and defensive holding to be 10-yard penalties instead of 5-yard penalties. I don't like that, to be honest, but it is something that I guess I would probably be willing to concede if they'd actually consider getting rid of automatic first downs. And my counter would be like, okay, but then personal fouls can't be automatic first downs either. I want it gone completely, to be honest. And I also want to make sure, because there was obviously this narrative that came out with the Lions, like, oh, you're just doing this because you guys had the most illegal contacts and defensive holdings in the league. You guys both know I've been pounding the table for this for the better part of a decade. This is not me being a homer for the Lions. This is something that has bothered me for a very long time about the game. And it's giving, like you were saying, Jason, it's giving the officiating too much power. We should not have the officials with that much power on a long distance play, really on any play, because just a free set of downs on what typically amounts to a pretty ticky-tacky, very subjective call, difficult call to make too, live. That's just, there's too much nonsense that can happen with that. And if you want to increase the yardage a little bit, fine, but that's as far as I'm willing to budge.
I'm wondering if I couldn't find the stats on this, and like percentage of downs that illegal contact is called. It feels like third down is way more common than first down.
Right.
Like they're officiating it different on the third down play as opposed to a first down play. And that also goes with optics too. Like you let them play all this way up till third or fourth down, and then all of a sudden now it's a penalty. That doesn't help. Jacob, I got a proposal of what if the penalty mattered of where it happened? Like if it was after the first down marker, like say you committed the penalty after the first down marker, would you grant a first down in that play in that situation? Say it's 3rd and 15 and the illegal contact happens 16 yards down the field.
I mean, that's interesting. I suppose that could possibly make it more fair, but I still don't. I don't like that either. It's not good enough for me.
Jeremy laughs, so I know that he doesn't like it at all. He's just getting rid of everything.
I also think it's probably unlikely to ever happen. Like illegal contact usually happens within the first, 10 yards or so. Obviously, it has to happen outside of the first 5. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that would make that big of a change to the game, but it's an idea. It's an idea.
What about adding it to the reviewable playlist? The automatic, if they're going to keep it a first down, I mean, that's a game-changing play, right? I mean, that potentially, especially third, fourth quarter, and you do automatic review on it. And does it go to like where it goes upstairs to like, where they can review it in like 20 seconds or so.
But the offense, a lot of times on these plays, the offense initiates that contact. The offense is trying to get that penalty.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're going to review, you're going to be like, well, yeah, contact was made. I mean, the defense is responding or whatever. But, it's, just add that to the flopping thing, too, for pass interference. But
right. Too subjective for me.
Yeah.
You slow anything down, it can look like it's pass interference. It can look like illegal contact. I don't like having that reviewable.
Yeah. So just for clarity, there was 184 defensive holding calls league-wide last year. The Lions had the most with 11, which, Jeremy already mentioned. 57 illegal contacts. The Lions were in the middle of the pack, 3 against. The most was Buffalo. Again, Buffalo. It all comes back to Buffalo.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go to, now this is, the last one was Jeremy's, this is the sword he was going to die on. This next one is Jacob's sword that he's going to die on. He wants OPI called the same as DPI. what talk to me about that, Jacob. Tell me, what grinds your gears about that.
I hate it, man. I really hate it. The receivers have way too much, and I mean even on our team, they just have way too much wiggle room as far as a deep ball. They're kind of hand fighting down the field. Receivers push off on probably 60-70% of the time. They're able to kind of push or do whatever they can. You also have times where the receiver hooks his own arm underneath the cornerback, and then he sticks his other arm out, like looking at the ref, like, look, I can't get my arm out. There's way too much, I guess, back to the flopping thing. There's just way too much where they're trying to sell that penalty when they know they can't get it. And the defense, there's just times where they're just making a good play. They're making a break on the ball sometimes and they get it called on them. They are playing the receiver textbook exactly how they're supposed to. The flag gets thrown. Well, you don't review or do anything with that. They call defensive pass interference. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I mean, I know offensive pass interference is called.
I got them.
Yeah,
right
let me
for
get the percentage of calls because it's way.
So I could tell you the number of calls just based on last year: 315 defensive pass interference.
Okay.
To last year, 75 offensive.
Yeah,
interference.
right.
So four times as much. And I will tell you that most of those OPIs are probably like mesh plays where they're coming across the middle. It's not the deep plays that you're thinking of. So the fact of the OPIs that are called in the same realm as DPIs is even lower than that. Probably, I would say a quarter of those 75 are probably out there. I don't have that exact number, but that's what I'm guessing.
Right. No, you got to be right because it's usually, they get that first yard and they have these pick plays and different things like that. Well, sometimes they don't make it in time. They're further out, and that's when they call offensive PI. It's not when, hey, Mike Evans is just going to shove somebody to the ground and then jump up and get the ball. They just let them do that way too much. And I don't understand because it's blatantly obvious to me. It's got to be to most people watching this game when they're pushing off or when they're hand fighting or whatever. If you're going to let them play both ways. But then, you also have the receivers like Jamar Chase. If he doesn't get that call, then he's yelling at the referee and everything like that. And then chances are he's going to be getting one next time.
Mm-hmm.
Make this like baseball. And if you're going to argue the call, throw him out of the game.
man, we got to see that this weekend at the Cubs game, man. Instant, like, wow.
And that,
instant
right.
Draw. Yeah.
And that was nice.
Jeremy, where do you stand on it?
I don't disagree with pretty much any of that. The only thing I might quibble with is that I think it's hard to pick up live. Like, it's easy on the replay to see like a full extension push off, but I think it was Mike Pereira who said pass interference is the most difficult call to make as an NFL official because it happens so dang quick and your eyes have to be in 10 different places. And it's why they tried to make it reviewable is because it's just a difficult call to play to call. And so, the disparity should not be that big. I would say the offense probably pass interferes, maybe not as much as the defense does, but it's certainly closer to 4 times as much. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it's funny because Mike Evans was the first guy I thought about too when Jacob started talking about it. Not to pick out him, and like I understand there's a place for physicality in receivers, and that's how a lot of players win. But there's a way to be physical in a way that's not literal pushing off. Like it's getting a guy's hands off you. It's, making sometimes it's just literally running through the guy, which isn't necessarily pass interference if you can do it at the right time in the right space. So I'm one of those guys that it's just like anytime there's an offensive pass interference flag on the field, I'm like, good for you, ref. Good for you. You did it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those cases where, it's an offensive league, and that I'm sure there's a mandate down that we're not going to we're going to give the defense too much power. But the problem with defensive pass interference, it's a spot foul, right? So you have that, it could be a huge penalty, 45, 50 yards or whatever. They need to go back to the review system on this. When this happened, when they did that review system, it was very clear from the beginning that they were not going to overturn the refs' calls because it was not down on the field. Now, if they do the review assist where the guys upstairs are making that call, maybe they're more apt to make that call that, the overturn a pass interference call. So I just don't understand when you could have the largest penalty possible in a game that can't be reviewed at all. Because it's that you can talk about flipping a field or whatever, or just like you said, just throwing it up on 3rd and 15 and you're throwing it down the field just hoping to get that flag.
It's happened in the Bears game, Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
4th down, let's just chuck it up deep. And then sure enough, like a phantom pass interference call on Vildor for so ridiculous, which obviously that worked out for us anyway. But, just stuff like that. I just,
Yep.
Well, it caused me to take an extra Tums or two, Jacob. So, I mean, I don't know if it totally worked out for us, but yeah. So I wish it was a little more even. I do, but I think it's really hard, and they're gonna side with the offense on this more. Obviously we've looked at the numbers. If you look, the most they've ever called in 1 year was in 2019, was 101 offensive pass interference. They're mostly in that, that 60 to 70 range, whereas defensive pass interference is the most was 315, but you're in that 278, 308. So you're always in the 300. So it's always like almost a 4-to-1 ratio on that.
And it probably, right, like Jeremy said, I'm sure the defensive pass interference happens more frequently, but when the offensive one happens, it doesn't get called. It's just crazy that it's so different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. The next one is delay of game penalty. I picture Alex Anzalone just jumping up and down in that Vikings game, right? And this one drives me. This is one that drives me bonkers because there should be no subjectiveness to this. It's objective. The clock hits 0, and they have the thing where the ref looks at the clock and then looks down at the ball. No, it should be as soon as it hits 0, it should be over, right? So why is that acceptable? Do you guys find that weird as well?
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's the dumbest. It's the dumbest because it's the easiest thing to prevent. Like this isn't soccer where we have approximate timing and stoppage time and it's a shot clock. It is a shot clock, and we have another league that has a shot clock that doesn't play around with gray area. What are we doing here? Why are we living like we're getting away from the ancientness of chains counting for let's get away from this. Like what it never made any sense to me. It certainly doesn't now. Technology has surpassed any excuse to have this in place. Very simple solution. Decimal timing.
Yes.
Under 10 seconds, just like a shot clock now in the NBA. And you know what? Extend that to 1 minute on the regular clock too, so that we don't have any problems in case a play is snapped, like in Green Bay 2 years ago, after a quarter ends.
Mm-hmm.
This is elementary stuff, and I can't believe this hasn't been fixed yet. It is the dumbest rule on the NFL rule book. I mean, you want to put a buzzer in the official's ear? You want like the whole scoreboard to light up red like it does in the NBA? Whatever. You can make this happen in a way that doesn't have to it took me a half a second to go up and down. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
And we got Jeremy fired up on this one too. All right, cool,
I'm with you. Like this is one of the dumbest ones. Like I can see arguments for all the other ones. There's no counter argument here.
Right. No. And it should be like they could have lights on the field goal posts that just go up, just whatever. Just mark the time is at 0 and you have that snap hasn't happened, 5-yard penalty. I just don't like the unevenness of it at all. So I don't get it. It drives me bonkers. I think when it hits 0, the defense just be able to steal the ball from the center and say it's my ball now. It's a fumble at that point. It's just that'll fix it real quick. Won't see any delay of game penalties, right?
There should just be a different buzzer. There should be a buzzer. I mean, you can have like the thing light up too. There should just be a different buzzer if it hits 0 and the ball has not been snapped. No more in the process of the snap or whatever. If the ball is not in the quarterback's hand by the time that buzzer goes off, the play is dead. You lose 5 yards for trying it again. Yeah, there should be no more times where it's like everybody in America can see where they got an extra like 2 to 3 seconds sometimes. Why? It should, right. There's just no reason for it. It really is simple.
Yeah, the decimal clock is just such an easy solution for this. I mean, I It just blows my mind. And this is another thing. It's optics, right? Like it seems like we should be able to fix this like in like 3 seconds, but they choose not to do it for whatever reason. I don't know. That's the problem I think with gambling in a sense with me is that it calls into question everything. Like why do they do that? And then I just don't, whatever. It drives me nuts.
I'm just shocked there hasn't been a single team that has proposed this. Like, how does this? It bothers all fans, not just Lions fans, but certainly Lions fans. I don't see how there isn't a team that's just like, can we fix this archaic bullcrap? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, no, yeah. And instead, we're doing all this. We're arguing about the tush push, right? We're all focused on that. We forgot other obvious things that we can fix.
Maybe it's because every single team also gets stuck in a time where, oh crap, the play clock's running out. We can't use a timeout. Let's hurry up, get it off as soon as we can, and hope for the best.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm moving off it. I'm already fired up. So, all right, let's just some non-in-game changes. 18-game season's coming up. I just want to skip to that. Would you guys? I mean, I think you'd have to add the extra bye week, right? You got to add another bye week in there. Right.
Definitely.
So my question is that they do that, that's going to add 2 weeks to the season, one for the extra game and one for the bye week. So now the Super Bowl, like this year, will be scheduled February 8th. It won't be till February 22nd. So now we've extended the season 2 weeks. Do they start the season earlier? Do we start before Labor Day, or do we keep it there?
Start right before Labor Day.
You think
limit the preseason, and then you start the Sunday right before Labor Day. Labor Day weekend, start football on Sunday instead of starting like on Thursday or Friday before. You start the day before Labor Day. You have the 2 bye weeks. The Super Bowl could be played on President's Day weekend where everyone's got that extra day off and everything. Right. I'm not a fan of 18 games, but I mean it looks like it's inevitably going to happen.
I'm a fan of 18 games in the sense that it evens things up. I hate 17 just for the unevenness of it.
Yeah.
You can never say it's halfway through the season. I hate that.
Yeah.
No more 500 records.
Yeah. I would rather see. We're going to see 18 games. That's not a question of. It's a question of when, as opposed to if.
Well, 2030, right?
Yeah. We're going to compress this offseason even further. Jeremy's never going to get any time off. That vacation you just had, Jeremy, never going to happen again.
That's right. Well, yeah, I do wonder if like you can make that 2 week extension a 1 week extension by deleting a preseason game essentially, and that way I guess you would be starting the regular season a week early, right? Where that extra preseason game would be, you start the season there. I don't really care when it starts or when it stops. It doesn't affect me all that much outside of maybe losing a week of vacation time. I guess there is, the deeper into February you go, maybe the worse the weather gets for a potential Super Bowl. But another one of my weird idiosyncratic things about football is I prefer it to be played indoors. I prefer it to be played in perfect conditions. So hopefully as new Super Bowl venues are selected, they continue to be as indoors or hot weather as possible. But
agreed.
But yeah.
I guess the only other way that you could do it is you delete the bye week in between the NFC Championship, NFC AFC Championship, and the Super Bowl. I don't think they'll do that just because they like that build up in there. Along with that line, we talked about President Day weekend. When they do the 2 weeks, why can't they move the Super Bowl to Saturday? Wouldn't that be like if you got the 2 weeks, like then not everyone's got Sunday off. I know this is gonna be Jacob's gonna be like it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Exactly. What are you doing? You cannot change that.
Why? You tell me why.
It's ridiculous.
Super Bowl Sunday.
It's Super Bowl Sunday. It's ridiculous. Football is played on Sundays. You can't take that away from me.
It's played on Thursday. It's played on Friday now. It's played on Saturday. It's played on Sunday. It's played on Christmas.
The majority of games are played on Sundays where they belong, Jason.
I stepped into something here, Jeremy. Get me out of this. What do you think? Are you on Jacob's team or my team on that?
I'm on team let's make Monday a holiday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think can we all just agree to that?
Switzerland over here. All right.
That's right.
Jeremy Switzerland. I get behind that. It should be.
It wouldn't matter if Monday was a holiday if the game was played on Saturday, though, Jason. So just remember
That's
that.
fine.
He's just being nice to you.
He is. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, so I expect him to be nice to me. I just don't like the fact that on Sunday you gotta get up early for work the next day. And I guess the solution would be to make that a holiday and have most people be off. But I can tell you that Jacob and I would not be getting the day off. The next day would not be a holiday. So
I request I don't schedule myself that day, or I make myself work later that day.
okay,
There's my resolution.
that's all right. I'll talk to your new boss and we'll see what we can do about it.
You have no pull.
I know I don't. That's all right. All right, man. Let's move on to the last section here, and then we can make this quick. Outrageous rule changes. I asked everyone, Jacob and Jeremy, to come up with a couple different ones. Again, these are meant to be fun. This is, at least in my mind, these are meant to be fun. Maybe some truth to them, but these are just for fun. So let's start with our guest first, Jeremy. Why don't you tell us one of your two if you came up with any?
Yeah, if Dave Phipp was listening and turned this podcast off, or if he didn't turn it off, he's going to turn it off in a second. No more punting. We're done with punting. Just get rid of it completely. Like I said, it's weird to me that critical plays are handed to players that don't play the majority of the game. These guys that aren't good enough to be starters, they're given this really important play. And you want more scoring? How about you have to go for it on fourth down every single time? That's going to increase a lot of scoring, I guarantee you. The only downside to it, in my opinion, is that the Lions lose their advantage of being aggressive on fourth down because everyone is forced to do it. But while this is a little silly, there is a part of me that is convinced that no one in 10 years would miss the punt if it's gone. They would get used to just like a really cool, exciting game that now includes a do or die play at the end of every set of downs.
Oh man.
I don't think that's all that outrageous. I mean, that's, if you go 3 and out, you're in trouble. If you started from the 20-yard line, like, oh man.
You know those possessions that start on your own 1 yard line that the offense gives up on first down? They're just like, we're just going to run it up the middle so that we don't get a safety.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore because you're going to give the ball up on the 2 yard line if you do.
That's true.
Man.
I like that.
Man, I feel like that's gonna, some of these really bad teams, they're gonna be out of a game like by the second quarter, and the NFL won't like that. So I think that's how that gets shot down. I do like it from the standpoint of you're getting 4 exciting downs. You're getting to play it all the way out. I mean, that's one thing that's really awesome about this Lions teams, right? We get past midfield and we, there's a good chance we're going to be going for it on one of these fourth downs if we get to fourth down. Jacob, you got another rule while we ponder the no punting league of NFL?
Most of mine are ridiculously outrageous because I got a handful of them, but I guess the one that is outrageous, but not as much as the other ones I have. So this also centers around special teams. I say if you're down in the fourth quarter with less than 2 minutes left, you can attempt an unblocked field goal off of a kicking tee. Only once per game. You have to line up outside of the hash marks. But you're down by 3. Try a 70-yarder off the tee. Go for it.
Oh man! So from anywhere on the field, you could try it. Not
anywhere. You got to be less than 2 minutes left. You got to be down. You can kick anywhere, 70, 80 yards from the tee, whatever. But if you miss, the other team gets the ball from that spot. So maybe this is a last-minute desperation thing, but that's my first outrageous proposal.
What is the rule? Like you get a free kick right at the end, like the Chargers did it last year.
Yeah,
that's a fair
an onside kick.
Yeah.
Oh, onside?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, you're right. A fair catch on a punt.
Yeah, fair catch on a punt. You could choose to kick it off without. Yeah, basically your thing.
Right.
So. All right. Well, I guess special teams is like in everyone's mind because mine is also special teams related, but mine has to do with field goal kicking as well. But mine is if you hit a post and it goes in, you get an extra point. So if you doink it and it goes in, you get 4 points. If you double doink and go in, 5 points.
Wow.
So, you know, that's only if it goes in. If it bounces
Right.
out, you don't get any points. I contemplated the idea of like you hitting the post, you get a point just for hitting the post, but I decided it's got to go in. So now you could be down by 4. What if you're like at the 20-yard and you know, Bates just tries to hit that post on purpose? So how make it even more exciting to hit a doink.
I like it. I like
aiming for the crossbar.
But I'm gonna add to this conversation with another one of my ideas, which is negative points for missed field goals.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I got this idea from fantasy football, really, because I think one year I don't play anymore. I haven't played in a long time, but like one year I think I made missed extra points, and this was back when they were gimmies, you know, 95, 99% make negative 10 points. Like
Okay.
a huge negative. And so like the idea would be anything like 30 and under is going to be like a -3, -4. Like you should make all these field goals. So if you don't, you're going to get penalized.
Man, all right.
Put
We
even
are
more
just-
pressure on these kickers.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. I like it, man. Weird. Jeremy, for someone that doesn't like special teams, you're really maybe this is a symptom of you like not liking special teams. You're just
I'm trying to
penalizing
make it better. I
Yeah,
don't like it as it is, Jason. There's nothing wrong with special teams inherently. It's just
Okay.
bad the way it currently is.
Okay. All right. I gotcha. I'm with you. Now
Get rid
we'll
of punts, make field goals more exciting.
Yeah, and penalize running backs somehow because you hate running backs. All right, Jacob. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Jacob, you said you had a list, so let's hear.
I've got some more ridiculous ones.
All right.
Defensive touchdowns worth 8 points. No extra point attempt afterward. You just get 8 points for a defensive touchdown.
All right, that's exciting. All right.
The center is an eligible receiver. Snap the ball, go out for a pass, do whatever you can, or you can just block downfield. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're all right. No illegal man downfield. All right.
The Frank Ragnow in memoriam rule.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, yeah.
All right, last one I have. The kicker is allowed on the field at all times. Eligible 12th man on offense. He can play as a 12th defender. It can only be the player designated as the kicker. So if he gets hurt, he's out. You're just SOL. But yeah, then, you know, would you rather have Jake Bates line up as safety,
Well,
or would you rather teach Brian Branch how to kick field goals?
here's the thing. Now, is it just a field goal kicker or is it the punter? Because you say kicker. So, because if it's a punter,
In my head, I'm saying field goal kicker.
okay, because I'm thinking that gives us.
Let's pretend they've eliminated the punt. We'll take Jeremy's rule. They've already eliminated the punt. There's no punter anymore.
Oh, sorry, Jack Fox.
Because I was gonna say Fox can throw it, right? So he's we could have him. He could be our extra player on the field, and we got a trick play. You get a double reverse, throw it back to Fox. He throws it over to Jake Bates. We got 2 extra kickers on there. Oh man, this is great.
I do want to see a kicker lined up opposite a kicker and just both of them run routes. Like I just want to see that now.
Well, you could set that up, Jeremy. Just set that up in your Madden simulations.
That's
Just
right.
set up two
That's a good
two
point.
kickers. Do that. That'd be fun to watch. All right, I'll. My last one is I want refs. I want all the audio and the refs to be. I want to hear the audio of the refs when they huddle. I want to hear that. I want to know everything. I want to hear the transparency. I don't know if you caught the Tigers game this weekend. The mic and the umpire is hot, and you could hear everything that he's saying. And I want to hear this in the NFL. I want to hear exactly what they're arguing over down there.
Yeah,
They'll
I
never
think
let it happen.
They do that in the UFL a little bit, at least. Like they definitely do it with like Mike Pereira in the review box. I think they do it with the normal refs too.
Yeah,
And
you
it's
can hear
great.
them talk and come to the conclusion. Everything. It's something the NFL wants no part of, though.
I know.
Exactly.
That's why I wanted. That's why it's in my outrageous rules thing. So, all right,
That would be
Jeremy,
awesome.
Did you have any others, or were you?
No,
we exhaust your
the
list?
the only one that I came up with while we were thinking is like, instead of kicking a field goal, what if the quarterback, you know how they like play the game where they try to hit the crossbar? What if they did that instead of field goals?
Okay.
Nice.
That's right.
He just
He's
wants
getting
all special teams
rid of the
gone.
punter. He's getting rid of the
Chipping
kicker,
away.
Yeah. It's called football in America. We're just getting rid of the foot.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get rid of it all.
Nice.
All right, Jeremy. Before we let you go here, I I let off this podcast. I just want to, as a podcaster here, I'm always interested in podcaster stories. So I want to know like your most rewarding experience. You've been doing this for almost 10 years, right? I don't know if you were doing it before the PODcast, but I know that's about coming up on the 10-year mark, right? Pretty quick here. So I was wondering if over those 10 years, what has been the most rewarding thing that you've experienced?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is all the Movember stuff, right? The raising money for charity that we started doing a few years back, and that kind of culminating in the live show last year, with an opportunity to do it in front of people and see people eye to eye, people who've probably been listening for decades. Just being able to thank those people in person and see the joy that they get out of the show was definitely worth it. Especially doing it for a good cause and raising over $40,000 for it. That's the sappy answer. The more selfish answer is interviewing Barry Sanders, which still feels surreal. He is the entire reason I'm a Detroit Lions fan. The biggest Barry Sanders fan growing up. He was short. I was short. Best player I've ever seen live. Worth the price of admission every single time. And so to be able to talk to him, and I didn't know what I was expecting out of him, because you hear a lot of stories about him. Like, he's quiet, he's a little shy, but he couldn't have been, more excited, or looked more excited to do it, to be there to talk to us. And so that to me is an all timer. And if everything about my job right now is taken away from me tomorrow, they can't take that away from me. That is still going to be one of the things I will never, ever, ever, ever forget. And I'm extremely thankful for.
Yeah. That made me think of my brother is, let's see, Jeff, I think he's 4 years younger than me. So when we were playing football in the yard, he was always Barry Sanders. Like, that was his thing. He had to like juke you out. Like, that was the only way, because if we got our hands on him, he was done for. And so fast forward to an adult, he installs golf simulators, and he's at an event, and Barry Sanders comes over to use his golf simulator. And it was like a dream come true for him to meet him. And so he's like, all right, this is my time. I'm at Barry Sanders, and so he tells me this. And of course, a big brother, I'm super jealous. My brother got to meet Barry Sanders. Fast forward like a year later, my brother's on a plane and he hears a voice, and it's Barry, and Barry sits down next to him on the plane. So he sits down next to him the whole flight next to Barry Sanders. I'm like, this bastard got to meet him twice. Yeah. But no, it's pretty awesome. And he was very impressed with just Barry's humbleness and, easy to have a conversation with. So, which is always great when you meet your hero and they're everything you wanted them to be.
100%.
Like you, Jeremy. For me, you're 100% my, exactly, what I thought you'd be. Is that sucking up, Jacob? Is that okay? Am I gonna get yelled at for that?
I'll allow it this time.
Okay, cool.
Just because he's still here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. As soon as I leave the call, it's you, sap.
Right.
That's right. No, it's all said and just. But Jeremy, thanks for coming on. It's always great to have you on the show, and just. Like I said, we're waiting for our checks to come in. You can wait the same amount of time for your check to come in on this podcast. But what are you working on anything for the PODcast? You got anything cooking? Anything you want to talk about before you head out?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for having me, particularly on a topic that I am very passionate about. So thanks for thinking about me for that. In terms of stuff at Pride of Detroit, obviously we're entering the kind of slow season. So we'll be picking up some, series type things where we're looking at the NFC North, where we're looking at each position on the Lions roster, things like that. But I guess if I were to point people in a specific direction, the stuff we're doing with our premium newsletter, I think is pretty cool. Ty Shalter was one of my first favorite Lions writers. We got him to create weekly columns for us over there. We're still recapping the Detroit Lions 2025 draft class by bringing on beat writers from the colleges, from those players. So, we've talked to a whole bunch of people already. We're still working on the Georgia boys. So those are all to come over at Pride of Detroit Direct, which is our premium newsletter. You get it right in your email inbox. If you want to become a subscriber there, you can go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe.
I will vouch for that subscription. It is well worth it. You get Eric and Jeremy extra long mailbags once a month. The First Bite stuff's cool. And then something you didn't mention, which I'm really looking forward to, is when training camp starts.
Yes.
You guys are still going to do that this year, correct?
Yep. Daily videos.
Daily,
Yep.
because they did that 2 years ago when it was just part of the regular podcast, and that was exactly what I needed to hear. Just a little bit of tidbits each day. I mean, it's usually like 15, 20 minutes from what I remember.
Yeah.
Just enough to kind of get you, who's looking good, where the battle's looking like, get you set for the season. So I do recommend you look into that. There are a couple, Eric Schlitt has his Patreon also, which he does not advertise enough, $5 a month.
Agreed.
Around his, right around draft time, it pays for itself. It's just awesome wealth amount of information. The stuff he does with Anthony with the grid index, you get on POD. So all that stuff's cool. But I do recommend becoming a, subscriber for Jeremy, the POD. It's well worth it. It's good stuff.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Jacob, anything before we take off? Tigers took 2 or 3 for the Cubs. That was awesome, right? We're gonna
still number one.
I know. No one else. I don't know if anyone's won 40 games in the American League yet. So Tigers are just. This is for real. We are for a legit. This is legit. Anybody that's not tuning in needs to tune in these Tigers. The games are so much fun. The defense this weekend was crazy good. Kerry Carpenter threw a guy out at home yesterday. Caught I don't know if it was been a home run on Friday, but he took away
It was
2
close.
runs.
Right. Parker Meadows
scored. Yeah, Parker Meadows is back, and if anyone could unseat Javi Baez from center field, it's Parker Meadows. He just makes things look so easy. That jumping catch that he had on Friday.
Right.
Good thing he's like 6 foot, because man, that would have been dangerous.
Yes. Right.
So
Good
Jeremy,
play,
are you regretting not getting FanDuel?
No.
Are you? You're not. Oh
Nope,
man,
nope.
man.
I had the French Open all last week. That was entertaining me plenty. I'll get into the Tigers one. Like they as someone put, they have nothing to prove the rest of the regular season. They're a really, really good team. I'll get excited when it's the playoffs, and I'll start watching when it's the playoffs. But you know what? For now, I'll watch the other peripherals. I'll watch the NBA finals, the NHL finals. There's going to be a long period of time where it's mostly just baseball, but maybe I'll go see what the sun looks like outside at some point.
Now on Friday, you could have watched Friday's game. I'm sure you have Apple TV, because I've heard you talked about maybe you dropped that subscription too. So Friday got the Scooble start. So
I see it. I was on vacation, to be fair.
I know. You're watching tennis, all right? Yeah. Oh, all right. I'm glad that we've talked to each other a few times. I can make fun of you a little bit and not feel too bad about it, and worry about you not coming back on or something. All right. Well, let's head on out of here, fellas. For Jeremy, POD, and Jacob, I'm Jason. Let's go Lions.